block off, right? The same as me, I live in 4211. Across on my driveway, always have four car parking right in front of it. So I cannot back out my car. I actually have a couple times I stranded in the house. I cannot get out the house, back out of the house. So that's my concern too. So on my speech here, I prepare my opinion. So there is 6 factors to address and aware and recognize and also consider. First one is fire safety. Okay, one thing, don't forget, we must stand on guard for our fellow citizens. It means we have to prepare and be ready at all times. No reason to delay, no reason to second guess. If an emergency vehicle needs to be there, it must allow us to get there without any obstacle. If a fire were to become out of control, it will be affect not only Glendenning residents and also surrounding neighborhood and park user. My situation, I just talk about it. The four car park right in front of my crossway. I cannot get out. So it's a huge problem for me. If some fire happen, I cannot get out. That's very dangerous. That's one factor here. The second factor, so you can recognize that usually when fire is happening, everybody will be panicked, right? It will create a chaotic situation because everybody want to get out. So sometimes there will be a major problem. So that we all have to look into it. Second is wildlife habitat disturbance. If we were widening the road, it will affecting all habitat of the wildlife. The third thing I would address is traffic overload at Manda Cross and Glendenning Road. If we increase traffic on Glendenning Road, it will create a traffic problem at the intersection of Manda Cross Road and Glendenning Road. And number 4, drainage issue. Cutting the trees will create drainage problem of the area because the tree there is to absorb all the water, the wetness of the area. So that's very important, one thing. And I would like to address it. There's a difference between want and need. You want more parking, but we need to have more our safety protected. You fear to lose your parking space. Our fear is to put our safety at risk. Our need, our safety is greater than your want with your parking. Therefore, we should respect no parking decision should be respected. The solution is not with widening the road or cutting the trees. The solution is to educate people about safety of the park, that everybody can enjoy the park for many years. Example, signage to indicate nearby parking for convenience. Define the bridle path clearly so people won't park on the side of the road, so create kind of dangerous issue for us. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Barbara. Barbara, I didn't see your comments in the letters here. If you wanted to give a copy to the clerk, that would go into our information. If you would like those ideas.
Okay, I just wrote from my idea. I just wrote down. I hope they understand what I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you. Speaker, please.
Good evening, my name is Debbie Gascoigne. I live on 214 May Street in Victoria. So I'm not a Saanich resident, but I am a concerned citizen because I think that natural parks of the nature of Mount Dove belong to everybody. in the region, not just to people in Saanich, or certainly not just to the people on Glendenning Road. One thing that I think is being lost in a lot of this discussion here is that the people who objected to the non-parking signs, and you can tell from my tone that I am one of them, have not been saying we want more parking, or that we want to cut down trees or to widen the road. All of them said is that we would like to have the parking that we had before, which has been in place for the 25 years that I've been using this park. Yes, there has some erosion on the side of the road. Yes, there have been some issues with pedestrians and horses and so on. But that is an issue that needs to be addressed, not by removing all parking on Glendenning Road. I'm not necessarily an advocate for creating more parking. I'm just saying that what existed worked really well for those of us. And you may have noticed that I've limped as I came up here. That wasn't an exaggerated limp. I have one hip replacement and I need another one. The severity of my hip has increased exponentially from sort of 0 problems to quite considerable problems in about 2 years, largely because I'm quite young. And it's very nice for the person who doesn't have any disabilities and at 75 is able to leap over buildings with a single bound. But for those of us who do not, actually an extra 5 or 10 minutes to a walk can make a difference. From being able to take your dog for a decent off-leash walk and not. And the reason that I drive some considerable distance, because I live in Fairfield, is that the access that's provided in Mount Doug Park provides safe and reasonable access for an off-leash, for walking your dogs off-leash. And I would like to point out that I do pick up my poop, or my dog's poop, religiously, and again, I understand completely the people, the concerns of the residents, the road, but once again, it's not their park, it's everybody's park, and I think that everybody needs to have access. And the other parking lots, in my letter, which I didn't see published, but I did write to you some time ago, I mentioned that I have in fact been parking on Winchester Road, noticed some of the concerns that the lady who spoke a couple of times ago mentioned, which is that there's limited parking there. It's soon going to be that cars are going to be parking on the boulevards there. And yes, it's a nice, easy spot, and that's what I've been using. But it's, how long is it going to be before you'll have a contingent of people from Winchester Road saying, please, could you put no parking signs on our street as well? So it's really, I think, the crux of the issue is that these parking signs came up without any consultation from anybody, as far as we know. I believe it was Councillor Bryce at our previous meeting said that you shouldn't have knee-jerk reactions, and it seems like the no parking signs was a knee-jerk reaction, and we need to step back from that knee-jerk reaction and have a concerted and proper investigation of what the various options are. Hear from all the groups, and I really appreciate the possibility of being able to come and speak to you tonight. But to make a proper decision and not one that is a knee-jerk reaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Dave Wise, and I've lived at 4211 Glendenning for a little over 10 years. I'm going to skip my first bit here because the lady from Winchester said something I want to talk about. And I think it's worth pointing out that the section of road that her house is on, from where it turns into a pathway to Parkside, we're talking about maybe 30 meters. It's not a long distance. And true enough, the road over that area, the boulevards are not improved. They're just, there's a curb on one side and there's grass on the other. So that could stand to be improved to clarify the parking situation as well. Beyond that 30 meters or whatever it is, 10 meters rather, you hit Parkside, and then it's curbs on both sides, conventional parking on a paved road. Okay. And then the last speaker mentioned the existing parking for many years in the north end of Glendenning was not causing any problems, but in fact it was. I've been there for over 10 years, and the thing I want to talk about mostly tonight is the bridle trail. That's the trail that runs, it serves as a multi-use, as a sidewalk for equestrian use and cyclists, and it's pretty important. So now I'll go into my little spiel that I've written down. About 15 years ago, I think, Saanich created Gordon Head Connector. It's a multi-use trail system encouraging walking and cycling. This was, and is, I think, really good forward-thinking policy. And the Glendenning leg was already perfectly suited to the purpose. The street lends itself to cycling and walking and is positioned to connect Gordon Head and Blenkinsop neighborhoods. Most people are able to appreciate Glendenning as a pleasant extension to their park experience rather than an obstacle on their way to parking their car as close as they can to the park. Currently, people, through ignorance or deliberate disobedience, are parking in the no parking areas. They continue to degrade the bridle path and vegetation by doing so. This path is essential for the safe and pleasant walking and riding along the road and is an important link in the trail system. Saanich has, I think, policies to minimize the impact of cars, encourage alternate transportation, and contain urban encroachment. Increasing parking goes against all of these goals. Despite its convenient location, this is not an urban street. Glendenning lies exactly and deliberately between the urban containment boundary and the ALR. It's not meant to look, feel, or function just like its urban neighbors. The street should be treated differently. It should be treated with extra care because its unique character could be easily lost. The natural features, the traditional users, the safety of the residents all need to be fully respected. Trading the trees for asphalt is a solution without vision and is liable to spoil the street to everybody's loss. It would be a sad mistake to allow increased parking to overwhelm the delicate balance of the street. This is the time to recognize that the best use for this street is just as it is, and to demonstrate that Saanich is not prepared to sacrifice one of its treasures for the sake of a few convenient parking spaces. I've got time left, but that's all I've got to say.
I'd like to invite the next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Sandra Savage. I live at 3640 Bridgeport Place. The wealthy and the lucky few who live on Glendenning have had the luxury of their own semi-private
Excuse
park.
me, in the audience, let's help me help you. None of that, please.
The wealthy and the lucky few who live on Glendenning have had the luxury of their own semi-private park access for many idyllic years. We understand their reluctance to see any changes to this exclusive arrangement that keeps their property values high and the public out. However, the fact is that Mount Doug Park was not created to endow perpetual advantages on the few. There has been residential growth all around this treasured park. All the other neighborhoods share access to the park and permit street parking, and are going to be overwhelmed with more parking coming into their residential areas as it's moved off Glendenning. Why is Glendenning excluded from roadside parking or an adequate parking lot? What makes Glendenning more special than other neighborhoods that have undergone growth? The optics of allowing a special few to control access to Mount Doug via Glendenning is unattractive to the many who regard this as the best and closest access point to this park. Every neighborhood surrounding Mount Doug Park was once a rural road. Progress has changed every other neighborhood. Why should Glendenning Road remain a semi-private enclave? How fair is it to shift parking to other neighborhoods? And by the way, most of us are not asking for trees to be removed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to invite the next speaker, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Alarian Gallant, and I live at 4351 Blenkinsop. To be clear, my property is on the south side of Mount Doug Park, and the people in Glendenning are my neighbors. And we all share the same common issues. We deal with and live with and welcome the users to Mount Doug Park. And I think that people who do live around the park do know the kind of habits and the kind of use that the park enjoys. Isn't this an amazing issue to have, an amazing problem, that here in this municipality, our problem is a popular park? And I think that's pretty amazing. That's a testament to all the hard work that the cities have put towards parks. But I would suggest that it's common sense that's required. As the gentleman who spoke a few before me, the engineer, he pointed out a great analysis of the parking issues. If you increase the parking, more people will come. If you widen highways, more people use it. And I don't know that increased parking is necessarily the answer, but I think that a strategy is needed to look at the parking, at the use of the park, to look at strategies of peak use. So I don't know that necessarily more parking, degrading the environment on Glendenning is the answer. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Wick, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Friends of Mount Douglas Park Society. Our group has strongly supported an urban to a natural park setting for all the roads that are entrances to Mount Doug Park. We really supported the creation of the Mount Douglas Parkway through the park, support the plane trees on Shelburne that give that transition. We're pleased when council protected the tree canopy on Cordova Bay Road through that section. We also lobbied strongly and glad to see the telephone poles and wires taking off Ash Road, and now the canopy is coming back. And we look at Glendenning Road in the same light, and it's got this ambience and character, and it really does provide that transition. So I think it fits in with what we have promoted in all the roads. We also strongly support the continuous trail and the boulevard that goes along that edge of the entire length of Glendenning. We support the bicycle route from Winchester and down Glendenning. It's an important connection between Gordon Head and the Lochside Trail. We do not support any motor vehicle use of that trail connection between Winchester and Glendenning. We do not support the conversion of any existing parkland for parking. But what we do think is that a TDM could provide some relief here. For example, the parking issues really are just at some peak times, and not everybody, but I think a lot of people, if they were aware of these peak times, could come at another time, and that could alleviate some of the problems. There are certainly some people that could arrive in alternate modes, and we really encourage that. Not everybody can, but a lot can. And then there's another area where there's some other areas of the park that have less demand and might be usable. For example, the Cedar Hill parking area could be fixed up, and it could actually get more parking in that area. It's kind of haphazard right now. And then that provides access to an almost level trail, really nice trail, the Matic Trail that leads over to Glendenning. There's ample beach parking in the beach parking lot, and there's two very flat trails leading towards Ash Road that could provide level trails, good surface. There is a slight problem though, that many people that want to take that would want to cross Ash Road and continue on the Douglas Trail by the creek, and we need a crosswalk there, so we're looking for that. Anyway, what we urge council to refer this issue to park staff so that they can rationally address the range of solutions, including fire safety, TDM possibilities, and other alternatives. And we've have requested a park management plan from Parks, and we would like to see this addressed within that context. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Darryl. Just for the audience here, can you say what you mean by TDM?
Traffic demand management.
Mr. Chair, Mayor and Councillors, my name is Barbara Tabata. I'm with the Gordon Head Residents Association, and the eastern side of Glendenning is situated in the Gordon Head area, so we consider it a residential road. The Gordon Head Residents Association Traffic Committee's policy is to support residents who have traffic or safety or parking issues on their streets. Parking demands occur most often in areas that are located near busy sites such as UVic or shopping centres. In Glendenning Road, the proximity to Mount Douglas's popular wide smooth trail situated at the north end with limited parking stalls has resulted in people parking wherever and has caused parking and safety issues, so much so that the Fire Chief, Michael Burgess, at the direction of the Administrative Traffic Committee in July 2015, conducted an assessment of the fire access and implemented the parking ban. The Gordon Head Residents Association recognizes the need for more parking at this location. We are asking staff to go back and look for creative solutions. We note that some streets near the trail have adequate space, but the pathways to the entrance need improvement. We ask that signage be installed at these sites. We also ask for a turnaround at the north end of Glendenning Road be built so that those who cannot manage the uneven terrain can be dropped off safely by drivers. It is noticed that at present it is very difficult to turn around at that spot. Further, the Gordon Head Residents Association received an email from Mr. Poje on November 15 outlining his experience of having signage torn off of poles that would inform park users about this committee of the whole meeting. Our position is that we have no knowledge of what happened and suggest signage staff inspect the site and verify what has or has not occurred. It is our position that at this time it is time for responsible action on everyone's part. Thank you.
Invite our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to speak. My name is Mary Durham, and I'm speaking on behalf of my family, who are proud residents of Glendenning Road. We would also like to thank the boards of the Friends of Mount Doug Park, the Greater Victoria Cycling Coalition, the Gary Oak Society, and the Blenkinsop Valley Community Association for writing extensive, thoughtful letters opposing the dramatic altering of this unique neighborhood for the purpose of increasing vehicle traffic to this entrance to Mount Doug Park. I would also like to thank the many citizens who have taken the time to write Council expressing their strong desires to continue to have Glendenning Road remain as it is, a unique and wonderful streetscape shared by all. We support the Parks and Recreation Department's decision to work towards repairing the damage that has been done over the years by vehicles to the bridle path, the walking trail, the natural vegetation, and the magnificent mature trees. We support the Fire Department's decision to work with the municipality to place no parking signs on the street to ensure that park users, local residents, and the park itself be accessible to first responders in the event of any emergency that arises. It is unfortunate that this action is required because some people feel that it is acceptable to continually block the fire hydrants, emergency access lanes, and private driveways for their personal convenience. We support continuing to promote this road as a shared road, doing as much as possible to ensure the safety and enjoyment of all the people and all modes of transport. We support looking into the possibility of designating specific parking spots at more entrances for people with disabilities. We support looking into the possibility of increasing community awareness of all 15 park accesses and look into seeing if money is available to improve some of the smaller park accesses that currently exist in this neighborhood that are currently unmarked, or some of them even partially blocked, that could help alleviate the parking and divert some of the parking to areas further down along Parkside and towards the water. I do not support the proposals being promoted by individuals that would require the destruction of a neighborhood at tremendous cost to the taxpayers, so that a few people who do not want to walk a short distance to go for a walk in the park. Thank you for this opportunity to speak, and I look forward to working together to see what we as a community can do to restore some of the damage that has been done to the walking trails and the hiking trails, and also to provide continuing ongoing support and input into how we can look at making the park available to as many people as possible without destroying the environment.
Thank you, Ms. Downer. I'd like to invite the next speaker, please.
Mayor and Council, thank you. My name is Ross Brisbane, and I live at 1515 Winchester Road. I've heard a lot of different points, actually, and I became aware of this issue over the last few days. And I would encourage Council and the Mayor to, I guess, work with engineering and talk a bit about some of the other options. I think a few of the issues were brought up by, actually, I don't like saying both sides and consider it's adversarial, but as you can tell, it is somewhat adversarial. I live about 5 houses, I guess, down for the lady that lives right at the entrance on Winchester Road. I've noticed an increase in parking in our neighborhood. You know, I assume that's to be expected if people can't park on Glendenning. I don't think that it's, I don't think what we should be looking at is trying to move one issue from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. And I kind of get the sense that's what different groups are trying to suggest. I do think engineering could look, and I think my old prof, Dr. Derwick back there, did bring up a couple of good points. One of them being, if we looked at actually when the traffic is actually there, we could probably encourage people to park at different times. I do have the luxury of being able to walk in the park, so I don't have to park there. But I did hear somebody else mentioning that usually it's busy for, I think he said, a 2-hour period. You know, there's options around that. You could put a meter in to encourage people to park at other times, but in that 2-hour period, you pay a fee. I like the idea of having a turnaround so that you could work with BC Transit and possibly for people that have mobility issues to take one of the shuttles if they were interested in doing that, and having, you know, one of the small community buses, or 10 or 12 that they could drop people off. You could assign certain hours for, you know, people with mobility issues that they could use the 4 or 5. I guess it depends on how big the vehicle is, but there's about 5 or 6 spots there right now. I'm not really in favor of opening up the trail. I noticed in the report that was originally published, it was referred to as a lane and things. It's a trail. We already have a lot of cyclists coming down there and a lot of people walking, and they do go pretty quickly down there, but I'm not in favor of opening that up to further traffic. I don't think either side on the Glencoe Valley or on the Gordon Head side wants to see that, because that's going to turn Glendenning and Winchester and Parkside into a thoroughfare. And so from my standpoint, I do think there are things that the engineering group could look at to encourage parking at various times. You know, from an actual, I saw some of the other plans, I don't know the person's name, I think it was David Poge, I think, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I noticed there was also consideration of buying lots on Glendenning and another one beside the path. And, you know, I think somebody mentioned it would suit 600 cars. I don't think anybody's interested in seeing 600 cars parked there, but I do think there are ways that we can accommodate people that have mobility issues, the neighbors that live on Glendenning that don't want to have people parked in their yard, people like myself on Winchester that don't want to have double-side lines of cars parked all the way down their street so that my 5-year-old and 8-year-old can't ride their bikes. So I would encourage that we work and do something like that to assess when the times actually are. I believe something similar was put into effect off of Cedar Hill Road where you can go into the main parking, and I think that for a while they had considered shutting down the road to the top of Mount Doug for a period so that people could walk and not have vehicles. Maybe there's something we can do to that effect to say, you know, people, if, you know, these spots are temporary spots for people with mobility issues for, you know, twice a day for 2 hours or something like that. I realize there's a cost to enforcing that, but it may have a more positive effect than either just saying no parking here and you're having people, I understand, doing that anyway, or just saying, well, let's shift the problem to another neighborhood. So, just my 2 bits. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ross. I'd like to call the next speaker, please.